Companioning Center is looking forward to you teaching a course on vocation, Deborah. So can you tell me about the course and your passion?
Yes. The course is called Out on the Wild Frontier, and it's about discovering your vocational credo, which comes from my book that I wrote. And it's about finding that theme in your life that you're passionate about. William Stafford wrote a poem. He was our poet laureate for Oregon and the United States.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote a poem 18 days before he died called The Way It Is. And he talks about a thread that if you hang on to the thread, you never get lost. And the thread goes through your entire life. And so finding your vocation is like finding that thread, that thing that motivates you to pound your fist on the table or makes tears come to your eyes, or the thing that you would do if money was no object. So discovering that is what this course is about. And it's called Out on the Wild Frontier because you never know where you're going to end up.
So what would people expect who took this course?
They would expect to end up with something that I call a vocational credo, and that is a statement of why you think you're on earth, why you think you're here. My vocational credo is I'm here to help people find their vocation and their voice so that together we can creatively and powerfully change the world. And not that we're going to change the whole world, but we're going to change the world around us with our passion and helping other people find their passion as well.
So you mentioned voice.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about that.
Voice is a metaphor, and it actually means literal voice, but it also means how do you voice yourself into this world? What is your story? What is your motivational story? Where do you go to find meaning? And so this course is about helping attendees find that meaning that's already in them.
So can you tell us a little bit about your story as far as what brought you to this place?
Oh, that's a good one. I actually lost my voice for 8 years. I did not even have a whisper. And I'm a very extroverted person, so it was incredibly painful to not be able to go to the parties. After church when everybody kind of hangs around and there's
Sure.
a hubbub and a talk, nobody could hear me. Nobody, and after a while, people stop talking to you if you can't communicate. And so I ended up being a silent observer of a lot of people. I started to notice when people were disappointed and when they were sort of put aside in conversations and things like that. And I began to get a passion for people that didn't have a voice metaphorically.
Mm-hmm. So not having a voice. So how did you say a little bit more about that as far as noticing it in other people?
Well, there was a lady in my church who had 2 sons in prison, and nobody wanted to hear from her. But you know what? That lady really knew how to get a hold of God in her prayers, and she knew how to find significance in her world. And she was not cherished, I might say, because of the bad fruit of her kids being in prison, but she was precious and she had so much to offer. So those were the kinds of people that I observed. The janitor at the church, people who did small things but had huge inner lives and were significant in the world without other people noticing.
So in the course, it sounds like there's going to be some time for people to reflect on their own experience and maybe find the golden thread that you said.
Yeah, find the thread.
Yeah, the thread.
Yeah, one of the things that hikers do in the woods is that they walk, but every now and then they turn around and they look behind them so they can recognize where they've been. So when they turn around and come back the other way, they're not lost. And I was thinking about that in response to our story. And most of us in this world are so fast forward ahead that we never turn around and look backwards and appreciate what's behind us and how it has formed us and how it draws us into the future. Therefore, all of those experiences back there, we don't get the full impact of those. We don't get the greatness of it and the greatness that it could produce in us. And so looking back at our stories is really important. It's also important to find the thread. You have to look back to find the thread.
So would you mind if I ask, looking back at one of those stories for you that you find is significant, that you wouldn't mind sharing?
Yeah. Well, the one, of course, was the loss of my voice. That was major. So that caused me to focus down on voice. But then I started looking back before that, and there were some things that happened. Being in the evangelical church, I was told that my voice as a woman was not wanted or needed. And then even before that, as a child, I was sexually abused. And in that process, my abuser said, "You cannot tell the story. You will get in trouble. This is your fault." And so there was a closing down of my voice already, kind of in the metaphoric sense, before I literally lost my voice. So you can see the thread that goes through from the time I was very small, my first pain probably, all the way to the losing of my voice and then the regaining of my voice, and came out the other side with a message.
And so a message that you're wanting to share in the class, and some of the particular ways of people then to consider their own voice and do that kind of reflection.
Yeah, if you know what your voice is, if you know why you're here, then you know what to say yes to, you know what to say no to, and we go through this in the class. We go through this sorting process in the class, and we look at how you most likely will enjoy the living out of your vocation. There's a couple of different ways that can happen, and we look at that. I'm mostly interested in helping people know how to be useful going forward in a way that they don't burn out. So I'm really interested in helping people find their wheelhouse. If you are in your wheelhouse, you don't burn out because you're doing that thing that's at the core of your soul. If you're doing other things, some of them I would call toxic skills, which is a great part of the course, learning about your toxic skills. If you get caught up in those, then you get burned out, and that's really frustrating.
So some really practical applications for people that are seeking that vocation and wheelhouse.
Finding your wheelhouse. Yes.
Well,
yes.
I can't wait.
Thank you. I can't wait as well. I'm excited.